Americans fly to Europe every summer, chasing the same dream: warm water, beautiful beaches, and memories that last a lifetime. But for a lot of those travelers, that dream falls apart the moment they arrive. Overpriced restaurants, beaches packed shoulder to shoulder, scams targeting tourists from the second they step off the plane. And the worst part? Most people don't find out until they're already there. Bags unpacked, wallet open. So today, we're ranking 15 European beach resorts, starting with the ones that will genuinely shock you, and ending with a few hidden gems that still deliver everything you were hoping for. Number 15, Mykonos, Greece. Let's start with the one that hurts the most, because so many people save up for years to visit this place. Mykonos used to be something special. Back in the day, it was a quiet little island with whitewashed buildings, windmills on the hill, and a laid-back charm that felt completely unlike anywhere else in the world. That island is gone. What replaced it is something that a lot of travelers describe as one of the most aggressive, dishonest, and overpriced destinations they have ever visited, anywhere in the world. Not just in Europe, anywhere. Here's what's happening on the ground. Restaurants in Mykonos have become notorious for presenting bills that bear absolutely no relationship to what was on the menu. One case that made headlines involved a single fish dish priced at €350, and the diner wasn't told the weight before it was cooked. The total bill came out to over €1,000 for 3 people having a simple meal. TripAdvisor actually placed an official warning on the page for one of the most famous restaurants there, and that kind of thing almost never happens. But Mykonos has pushed the situation so far that it did. Beyond the restaurants, the Greek government itself has launched investigations into what many are now calling organized corruption on the island. A network of developers and club owners who have illegally blocked public beach access, built illegal structures on protected land, and used private security to intimidate visitors who push back. For Americans used to consumer protections and clear pricing, this island feels like a different world, and not in a good way. You spend a lot of money, you feel watched and pressured at every turn, and you leave wondering what exactly you paid for. And that's before we even talk about the crowds. In peak summer, Mykonos is so overwhelmed that the relaxation you imagined simply does not exist. This is not a vacation. It is an expensive, stressful ordeal dressed up in expensive white paint. But believe it or not, number 14 on this list has been shocking first-time visitors from the United States even longer, and for reasons that are somehow even harder to stomach. Number 14, Magaluf, Spain. If someone told you that a beach town in Spain had earned the nickname Shagaloof, and that the name had stuck for decades, you'd probably want to know why before you booked a flight. Magaluf sits on the southwestern coast of Majorca, one of Spain's most beautiful islands. The island itself is gorgeous. The northern coast has dramatic cliffs, quiet villages, and some of the most scenic drives in all of the Mediterranean. And then there is Magaluf. It is, plain and simple, a completely different world from everything around it. The strip here is designed for one thing: cheap alcohol consumed in enormous quantities. The bars are stacked wall to wall. The music starts before noon and doesn't stop until dawn. For travelers from the United States who picture Spain as a place of flamenco, tapas, and centuries of stunning history, landing in Magaluf is like opening a gift box and finding something completely unrelated inside. The beach itself is actually decent, wide, sandy, and facing the right direction to get good sun. But reaching it means walking through a gauntlet of establishments that, to put it politely, are not aiming for the cultural traveler. Reports from American visitors describe tattoo parlors operating under conditions that would never be permitted back home, restaurant menus that bear no resemblance to what actually arrives at the table, and a general atmosphere that one traveler described simply as embarrassing to be part of. Spanish authorities have tried repeatedly to clean the place up. They've brought in upscale hotel brands. They've restricted certain types of promotions. But the core identity of Magaluf has proven very difficult to change because it was built from the ground up to serve a very specific kind of visitor, and that visitor keeps coming back. If you are planning a trip to Majorca, Magaluf is easy to avoid. Go north. Go to Valdemosa or Soller. You'll thank yourself for it. Number 13, Ayia Napa, Cyprus. Cyprus is a genuinely fascinating island with incredible history, fantastic food, and some of the warmest, clearest water in the entire Mediterranean. The ancient ruins at Paphos are a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Troodos Mountains are beautiful, The people are warm and welcoming. And then there is Ayia Napa, which manages to be almost completely disconnected from everything that makes Cyprus worth visiting. Ayia Napa built its reputation as a party destination in the 1990s and early 2000s, and in many ways, it has never managed to move past that identity. The problem runs deeper than just the nightlife. Ayia Napa is what experts call a highly seasonal resort, meaning that outside of July and August, the town essentially stops existing. Travelers who visit in spring or early fall based on appealing photographs and good online prices arrive to find that the vast majority of restaurants, bars, and shops are locked up and dark. Entire streets go quiet. The McDonald's is closed. The pizza place is closed. The beach bar you read about online? Closed. Travelers describe walking through the town in March, feeling like they had stumbled into a set for a movie about abandonment. The phrase, ghost town, comes up again and again in reviews from that period. Even in the height of summer, when everything is open and running, the experience is dominated by the same pattern as Magaluf. Enormous quantities of alcohol, an atmosphere centered on hedonism, and very little connection to actual Cypriot culture. For Americans who travel to experience something genuine, Ayia Napa delivers very little. It is a product built almost entirely for export, with no real local life underneath it to give it soul. Now, you might think it can't get much more industrial than that, but number 12 proves that sometimes a whole city can be designed from scratch as a vacation factory, and that design can be deeply unsettling when you actually walk through it. Number 12, Benidorm, Spain. From a distance, and I mean from a considerable distance, like from a plane window, Benidorm looks like someone picked up a piece of Miami and dropped it onto the Spanish coast by accident. The skyline is a wall of high-rise towers, dozens of them, rising straight up from what would otherwise be a lovely stretch of Mediterranean coastline in the province of Alicante. Up close, the picture becomes even more striking. This city was deliberately planned in the 1950s and 1960s to become a mass tourism engine, and it succeeded beyond anyone's imagination. Benidorm now packs more hotel rooms per square mile than almost any city in the world outside of Las Vegas. Here's the thing about Benidorm that separates it from Mykonos or Magaluf. It is honest about what it is. It does not pretend to offer charm it doesn't have. The pricing is generally fair. The infrastructure works efficiently. There is very little of the predatory scamming that plagues more glamorous destinations. But the trade-off is this: there is almost nothing here that connects you to Spain in any meaningful way. The Old Town is a small, slightly overwhelmed enclave surrounded by concrete towers and British pubs serving full English breakfasts all day long. You can spend a full week in Benidorm and never once feel like you have left home, wherever home happens to be, as long as home is Northern Europe. For Americans specifically, the experience can feel puzzling. Why fly across the ocean to sit in a tower block and eat fish and chips by the pool? The beach is fine, the sun is reliable, but Benidorm is essentially a very large, very efficient machine for delivering a completely generic sun and sand experience, and it delivers that experience well. Just don't expect anything more. Number 11, Kavos, Greece. Kavos sits at the southern tip of Corfu, which is one of the most beautiful and historically rich islands in Greece. The Venetian architecture in Corfu town is extraordinary. The northern coastline has some of the most dramatic scenery in the Ionian Sea, and at the southern end, you find Kavos, which feels like it was built specifically to keep a certain type of visitor as far away from all of that as possible. The beach in Kavos is consistently described as the worst on Corfu. It is narrow, often poorly maintained, and surrounded by a strip of bars and clubs that begin serving alcohol in the early afternoon. What makes Kavos genuinely concerning, beyond just being a party resort, is the health situation. Observers who have spent time there note that a remarkably high proportion of the storefronts along the main strip are private medical clinics. Not pharmacies, clinics, staffed and ready for injuries. This is because the combination of heavy drinking, dark roads, and the general chaos of the environment produces a steady stream of people who need medical attention. That is not a minor detail. That is a window into what the daily reality of this place looks like during peak season. For American travelers, especially those who have been looking forward to experiencing the Greece of mythology, of ancient marble and olive trees and the wine-dark sea, Kavos is a genuine shock. It shares an island with one of the most beautiful towns in the Mediterranean and somehow manages to feel like a completely different country, a much less appealing one. But wait, number 10 on this list surprises almost every American who visits, for a reason that sounds almost too simple to believe. And once you hear it, you'll understand why it divides travelers so sharply. Number 10. Nice, France. Nice is the capital of the French Riviera, and that title carries a lot of weight. The city has genuine grandeur. The Promenade des Anglais is one of the most beautiful seafront boulevards anywhere in the world, lined with palm trees and Belle Epoque architecture that glows in the afternoon sun. The food in Nice is exceptional. The museums are world-class. The connection to the wider Riviera, Monaco, Antibes, the hill towns above the coast, makes it a genuinely rich destination. So why is it at number 10? Because for millions of travelers who show up expecting to lie on a sandy beach and dip their toes in the warm Mediterranean, Nice delivers something entirely unexpected. Rocks. Not sand, rocks. The beaches of Nice are covered in large, smooth, rounded stones, called galets in French, and getting across them to reach the water requires the kind of careful, slow-footed determination that nobody pictures when they imagine the French Riviera. Once you're in the water, it's beautiful and clear, but getting there and back is genuinely uncomfortable without proper water shoes, and a lot of visitors simply weren't warned. Beyond the beach issue, Nice has another concern that comes up consistently in traveler reports. Certain areas around the train station and parts of the waterfront can feel unsafe, particularly at night. This is not a dramatic safety crisis, but it is real enough that the U.S. State Department has noted elevated petty crime in the area. Nice is a magnificent city. As a beach resort in the classic sense, it asks more of you than most people expect going in. Number 9. Positano, Italy. There are places in this world that are so beautiful in photographs that the photographs themselves become the problem. Positano, clinging to the cliffs of the Amalfi Coast south of Naples, is one of those places. The stacked pastel buildings, the impossibly blue water, the little boats anchored in the cove below. It is one of the most reproduced images in all of travel photography, and it lives up to the visual promise completely. What the photographs do not show is the physical reality of actually being there. Positano is built on a near-vertical cliff face. Getting from the top of town to the beach means descending hundreds of steps in temperatures that regularly hit the upper 90s in summer. Then you have to come back up and do it again the next day, and the day after that. For travelers with any kind of mobility concern, or honestly for anyone who didn't plan to spend their vacation doing stair climbs in the heat, this is a serious practical issue. The traffic situation compounds everything. The narrow coastal road that connects the Amalfi towns is one of the most congested in Italy during peak season. Buses get stuck, cars inch forward. What should be a 20-minute drive can take 2 hours. Once you do finally settle in, you find that Positano's natural beauty has attracted so many shops selling essentially identical ceramics and linen clothing that the town can feel more like an open-air gift shop than a living community. The restaurants are expensive and often disappointing relative to what you pay. Positano is one of the most gorgeous places in Europe, but experiencing it comfortably requires the right budget, the right physical condition, and the right expectations. Many visitors leave describing it as the most beautiful place they ever endured. And that brings us to number 8, a destination with two completely different faces, where what you experience depends entirely on which street you turn down first. Number 8, Albufeira, Portugal. Portugal has become one of the most talked about destinations for American travelers in recent years, and for very good reason. The country offers extraordinary value, gorgeous scenery, warm weather, fantastic food, and people who are genuinely friendly and welcoming. The Algarve region in the south, with its golden cliffs, hidden cove beaches, and clean Atlantic water, is legitimately spectacular. Albufeira sits at the heart of the Algarve, and it contains within itself a perfect illustration of everything tourism can do right and everything it can do wrong, sometimes within a single city block. The old town of Albufeira, perched on a hillside above the sea, is charming and genuinely Portuguese. The beaches on the outskirts, particularly Praia da Falésia, with its dramatic red and gold sandstone cliffs stretching for miles, are among the best in all of Europe. No argument there. But the area known as the Strip in Albufeira is a different world entirely. British-themed bars line the road for what feels like miles. Souvenir shops sell items that have nothing to do with Portugal. Noise pours out of establishments until 4 in the morning. Travelers who did their research before arriving and stayed in a villa on the quieter outskirts report having a wonderful time. Travelers who booked a hotel near the central nightlife district sometimes describe their stay with language I can't repeat here. The lesson of Albufeira is simple. Location is everything. The town itself is not the problem. The tourist infrastructure that grew up around it, unchecked and poorly planned, is what creates the misery for certain visitors. If you go, choose your accommodation wisely. The Algarve rewards you, the Strip does not.
Number 7.
Santorini, Greece. Santorini is one of the most recognizable images in the world. The white buildings with blue domed roofs, the caldera dropping away beneath them, the sunset over the village of Ia that turns the sky every shade of orange and pink. You've seen it in movies, in magazines, on the walls of restaurants, everywhere. It is genuinely one of the most striking landscapes on Earth, and it has been almost completely overtaken by the machinery of mass tourism. Here's what most people don't know before they book. Santorini is a volcanic caldera. Its geology means that the beaches, the ones that actually exist, are covered in black or dark gray volcanic sand and pebbles that absorb the heat and become genuinely painful to walk across barefoot. The water is beautiful, but the beach experience is nothing like what most people picture when they think of Greece. The famous spots, Ia, Fira, are so congested in summer that moving through them feels less like sightseeing and more like being in a very slow-moving line at a theme park. Everyone is waiting for the same photograph. Everyone is jostling for the same position at the same wall with the same view. Locals have been vocal about the damage, both to the physical infrastructure of the island and to the experience of living there. Hotels with caldera views charge prices that rival the finest resorts in the Caribbean, often without delivering comparable service. Santorini remains on this list above some worse options because its landscape truly is extraordinary. But as a practical beach destination for a relaxing vacation, it is among the most demanding and least comfortable options in the Mediterranean. There are much better choices, and we'll get to them shortly. But first, number 6 might surprise you. It's one of the most glamorous names in all of European travel, and yet for a lot of Americans, it ends up feeling like a beautiful stage with nobody real on it. Number 6, Cannes, France. Everyone knows the name. Cannes, the film festival, the yachts in the harbor, the Boulevard de la Croisette with its grand hotels facing the sea. There is genuine elegance here, the kind of old-world French Riviera style that used to define this whole stretch of coastline before the crowds arrived. For a certain type of traveler, one who enjoys quiet luxury, fine dining, and the company of well-dressed people who take their afternoon coffee seriously, Cannes delivers beautifully. But here's the honest truth for most Americans planning a beach vacation. The beaches along La Croisette are largely private, operated by the big hotels and beach clubs, and they charge for everything: the sunbed, the umbrella, the towel. The public sections of beach are narrow and get crowded fast. Outside of the festival period, the city can feel oddly quiet and strangely purposeless, as though the whole place is holding its breath, waiting for famous people to come back. The energy that makes a beach town feel alive is often missing, and the prices throughout the city reflect the Cannes brand rather than actual value delivered. A coffee near the waterfront costs what a full meal costs in most other parts of France. A hotel room during any busy period requires careful budgeting even for experienced travelers. Cannes is safe, clean, and genuinely beautiful in a reserved, tailored sort of way. As a base for exploring the surrounding area, the Lorraines Islands just offshore, the medieval hilltop villages nearby, it works well. As a beach resort where you relax and feel welcome without spending a fortune, it falls short of its reputation. Now we turn a corner. From here on, we're talking about places that actually deliver. Starting with number 5, a city that managed to do something almost impossible: stay real. Number 5, Split, Croatia. Here's something that sounds impossible until you actually walk through it. In the center of Split, right in the middle of this busy Croatian city on the Adriatic coast, there is a Roman emperor's palace that is still being lived in. Not a museum, not a reconstruction. People live inside it. Their laundry hangs between columns that were built 1,700 years ago. A local bakery operates out of what was once an imperial dining room. A jazz bar occupies a space where Roman guards once kept watch. Diocletian built his retirement palace here in the 4th century, and the city of Split simply grew up inside it and never left. That detail tells you everything you need to know about why Split works as a destination when so many others fail. It is a real city, not a theme park, not a resort zone, not a containment area for tourists. It has its own economy, its own culture, its own identity that exists completely independently of whether any visitor ever shows up. The Riva, the waterfront promenade, fills up in the evening with locals eating ice cream and chatting with neighbors, not just with tourists photographing everything. The markets sell produce and fish for people who are going home to cook dinner, not just decorative items for people filling their suitcases. This authenticity means you feel like a guest in a living place rather than a customer in a simulation. The beaches directly in the city are pebble rather than sand, but they're clean and the water is spectacular. And Split's position as the main ferry hub of the Dalmatian coast means you're perfectly placed to reach islands like Hvar, Brač, and Vis, each extraordinary in its own right. Split is also significantly more affordable than Dubrovnik, which has been almost destroyed by over-tourism in recent years. If you're considering Croatia, Split is the answer. Number 4. Lagos, Portugal. If Albufeira represents what happens when a beautiful Portuguese coastal town loses control of its tourism development, Lagos represents what can happen when a town manages to hold on to its soul. Lagos sits at the western end of the Algarve, about an hour's drive from Albufeira, and the difference in atmosphere between the two is remarkable. The coastline around Lagos is among the most dramatic and beautiful in all of Europe, and that is not an exaggeration. The area around Ponta da Piedade, just south of the town center, offers a landscape of golden sandstone arches, sea caves, and hidden cove beaches that genuinely has to be seen to be believed. Praia do Camilo, reached by a wooden staircase descending through the cliffs, is the kind of beach that people describe as once in a lifetime. The water here is Atlantic, which means it is cooler than the Mediterranean, brisk in spring, refreshing in summer. The town of Lagos itself is walkable and genuinely charming, with a historic center, good local restaurants, and a relaxed energy that attracts people who are interested in actually enjoying themselves rather than performing a vacation for other people. The infrastructure is solid, the prices are honest, and the surrounding region offers hiking, kayaking through sea caves, and some of the best fresh seafood you will find anywhere, at prices that will make you wonder why more Americans aren't here. The answer, I think, is that Lagos simply doesn't shout. It doesn't market itself aggressively. It just quietly delivers. And for the travelers who find it, that quiet delivery is exactly what they came for. And that's nothing compared to what we found at position 3. This next destination is famous for something most beach towns never even attempt, and it does it better than anywhere else on Earth. Number 3. San Sebastian, Spain. San Sebastian, known in the local Basque language as Donostia, occupies a bay on the northern coast of Spain that is widely considered one of the most beautiful natural settings of any city in Europe. The Bay of La Concha curves in a nearly perfect crescent, protected on both ends by green hills that rise straight from the water, giving the beach a sense of enclosure and calm that is genuinely rare. La Concha Beach itself, the urban beach right in the heart of the city, is consistently voted one of the best city beaches in the world. The sand is soft and fine, the water is clean, and because of the surrounding geography, it is sheltered from the winds that can make other northern beaches uncomfortable. But San Sebastian's true distinction, the thing that makes it completely unlike anywhere else on this list, is what you find when you step away from the beach. The Old Town, known as Parte Vieja, contains a concentration of culinary excellence that is simply without comparison anywhere in the world. San Sebastian has more Michelin stars per square mile than any other city on Earth. But the real magic isn't in those formal restaurants. It's in the pinchos bars, the small traditional Basque establishments where the bar top is covered in dozens of incredible little preparations of food, each one priced at roughly $2 or $3, and you simply pick what you want and stand there eating and drinking, while the kitchen rotates out fresh creations every few minutes. For American travelers who have spent years eating well and care deeply about food, this experience is genuinely life-changing. The quality of what comes out of even the most ordinary-looking pinchos bar in San Sebastian would be considered exceptional in the finest restaurants of most American cities. Add to all of this that San Sebastian is a beautifully maintained, genuinely safe, and elegantly designed city, with a strong local identity. The Basque culture here is proud and distinct, and you have a destination that delivers completely on every level. Number 2. Southern Sardinia, Italy. Most Americans who think of Italy's islands think of Sicily, or perhaps Capri. Sardinia, the large island sitting in the western Mediterranean between Italy and Spain, tends to be overlooked. And that oversight is one of the greatest gifts the island's admirers are quietly keeping to themselves. Because southern Sardinia, around the towns of Viasimius and Costa Re, offers something that is genuinely rare in modern European travel. Empty beaches with Caribbean-quality water in a place with centuries of fascinating culture, extraordinary food, and a local population that has not been overwhelmed by the tourism industry. The beaches in this part of Sardinia stop people in their tracks. The sand is white and fine. The water shifts from pale turquoise at the shoreline through every shade of blue as it deepens, the kind of color that you associate with tropical islands, not the Mediterranean. And unlike the beaches of the northern Costa Smeralda, which have become a playground for billionaires and celebrities at prices to match, the southern beaches are accessible, honest, and genuinely relaxed. The island has its own language, Sardinian, which sounds nothing like Italian and predates it by centuries. The food is distinct from mainland Italian cooking in ways that reflect thousands of years of independent development. Paper-thin flatbreads, whole roasted meats, cheeses that you cannot find anywhere else in the world. The festivals that take place in villages across the island throughout summer are completely authentic, run for and by the local community, and welcome visitors with warmth. Sardinia is the rare European destination that grows on you rather than overwhelming you immediately. The first day you wonder what all the fuss is about. By the third day, you are already trying to figure out when you can come back. Now for the top spot, and I want you to hear me out on this one, because I know the obvious choice would be Crete, and Crete is magnificent. But the number one spot goes somewhere different, somewhere that almost nobody from America has heard of. And once you learn about it, you'll wonder how it stayed a secret this long. Number 1. Kotor, Montenegro. Montenegro. Most Americans couldn't locate it on a map without help, and that is precisely the point. This small country on the Adriatic, tucked between Croatia to the north and Albania to the south, contains within its borders one of the most extraordinary landscapes in all of Europe, and it has managed to remain largely outside the mainstream tourist circuit long enough to still feel genuinely undiscovered. At the heart of it all is Kotor Bay, a dramatic inland sea, enclosed by mountains so steep that the water below them stays almost perfectly calm, ringed by medieval walls, ancient churches, and stone villages that have barely changed in 500 years. Kotor itself is a walled medieval city that has survived earthquake, conquest, and centuries of history with its character largely intact. Walking through the old town, which takes perhaps 20 minutes end to end, you pass Venetian palaces, Orthodox churches with silver icon screens, Roman-era stones built into medieval walls, and cats. Dozens of cats, who have lived here so long they have their own small museum. The city walls climb straight up the mountain behind the town, and making the climb, though demanding, rewards you with a view over the bay that is one of the most beautiful things you can see anywhere in Europe. The water in the bay is calm, deep, and crystalline. The surrounding beaches, both within the bay and on the open Adriatic coast a short drive away, offer the kind of uncrowded, pristine experience that costs 10 times as much to recreate at more famous destinations. The food scene in Kotor has developed quietly into something genuinely impressive. Fresh Adriatic seafood, excellent local wine, traditional smoked ham from the mountains behind the city, all at prices that seem almost impossibly low compared to Italy or France. And the people of Montenegro are, across the board, among the most welcoming and genuinely hospitable in all of Europe. There is no predatory pricing culture here. There is no infrastructure designed to extract the maximum dollar from the visitor as efficiently as possible. There is simply a beautiful place, run by people who are proud of it, inviting you to share it. That combination, the landscape, the history, the food, the honesty, the quiet, the sheer beauty of that mountain-ringed bay, makes Kotor Bay the single best European beach destination that most Americans have never considered. Go before the word fully gets out. Here's the bottom line. coastline. Not every European beach resort lives up to its promise. Some of them, like Mykonos and Magaluf, have been consumed by forces that leave the visitor feeling like nothing more than a source of income. Others, like Benidorm and Kavos, were never really meant for travelers seeking genuine experience. But the places at the top of this list prove that Europe still has remarkable destinations where the water is clean, the food is honest, the prices make sense, and you leave feeling like the trip was worth every penny. Choose wisely, and your summer in Europe will be everything you hoped for.